My mom was very strict about what I watched on TV as a child. I was only allowed to watch G and PG rated movies until I was 12. The only channels I remember being allowed to watch unsupervised was PBS Kids and Disney Channel. I was not allowed to watch Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon because their shows had negative influences on my behavior. I also wasn't allowed to watch TV after 9 p.m. Of course, this annoyed me a lot at the time. I heard my classmates at school talk about shows like Drake and Josh, Teen Titans, SpongeBob and Goosebumps, all of which I was banned from watching. In fact, as far as I know, I was the only kid in my class who was banned from those shows. I felt almost as if I were an outsider. However, I did get to watch those type of shows at my older cousin's house. You see, I visited my older cousins a lot. My mom divorced my dad when I was 5. As an only parent, she was very busy raising me and going to work. Fortunately, she was usually at work while I was at school, with her workday ending around the same time my school day ended. Sometimes, she would have to work hours later than usual. Since she didn't trust babysitters, she just had my uncle pick me up from school and bring me to his house. My cousins are about 10 years older than me, so they had more freedom with what they could watch. Partially because of this, I was very excited when I visited their house. They knew about my mom's rules, but they still let me watch whatever they did, as long as I didn't tell her. I remember watching movies like Jurassic Park, Kangaroo Jack and Spider-Man, which I know my mom wouldn't have approved of. One night, my mom had to work super late, so she planned a sleepover for me. I was so excited. I never went to a sleepover before. I was expecting to watch movies with my cousins all night long. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. We just watched The Simpsons movie, which I thought was hilarious, and I was sent straight to bed when it ended. It was a school night and my uncle was aware of my mom's bed at 9:30 rule. I whined about how it was a sleepover and that mom's rule didn't apply since I was at someone else's house, but my uncle just ignored me. He tucked me in on the couch in the living room, where I fell asleep quickly. I woke up at around 12:30 a.m. I took this as an opportunity to fool around. I went to the kitchen and stuffed my face with snacks from their pantry. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I didn't think I could get in trouble because my mom wasn't there. Then, I remembered the TV. I went to the room it was in and turned it on. I knew they aired adult shows at this hour, so I was excited to see what I'd find. The screen was black for a few seconds before flickering on. What I didn't realize was that the sound was still at the volume it was at earlier. Panicking, I lowered the volume to 0. My heart raced as I waited for the sounds of my angry uncle's footsteps coming from down the hall. Miraculously, that never happened. Relieved, I turned the volume up a little bit and watched whatever was on. It was just a rerun of an old talk show, which bored me quickly. I didn't know any of the channel numbers, so I just kept clicking the CH button until I found something good. At first, I just found more reruns of old shows. Of course, I eventually found stuff like Adult Swim and Nick at Night. I watched a little bit of both, but nothing took my interest, so I moved on. I then stumbled upon a channel that was just a black screen. I was confused, then I noticed it was 1 a.m. I figured that meant that something was starting, so I got excited that I was about to watch something from the very beginning. All that appeared on the screen was white text. All it read was, "The Mouse Catcher." It abruptly cut to an animated cornfield at night. The moon's rays blanketed the tips of the corn stalks. Everything was in a dull monochrome color. Then, coming from the right side of the shot, a line was created in the corn. Someone was walking through it. The next shot revealed it was an anamorphic mouse. He was wearing a white shirt, brown pants and big, round, exaggerated glasses. He looked very nervous. I began to feel uneasy. The animation was very fluent and the mouse's drawn-on expression looked very genuine. However, I decided to keep watching. The mouse was looking in every direction while trying to be as quiet as possible. Someone, or something was after him. He froze at the sound of a leaf crunching. His lip quivered as tears streamed down his face. He knew it was the end. Then, a disgusting, wet meat-tearing sound could be heard as a hand covered his mouth from behind, muffling his screams. The mouse tried to fight and pry his attacker away. The attacker could be heard shushing him in an almost calming voice. With a crack, the mouse dropped to the ground like a rock, revealing his killer. It was a fox, wearing one of those old-fashioned fox hunter uniforms. He was holding a bloody knife, dripping with dark red blood. I really wanted to change the channel at this point, but I knew that most likely no one my age has seen this movie, so I forged on. It then cut to the mouse, face down on the ground. The dark blood slowly oozed from his back. The fox bent down and flipped him over. He looked up at his murderer as he began to turn pale. The fox then spoke to the mouse. I think he said something along the lines of, "Good night, mouse. Your journey is over. Sleep well." He then gently closed the mouse's eyelids with his fingers and gave him a kiss on his cheek. At this point, I was very disturbed, but I refused to give up. The next scene cut to a small farmhouse. Inside lived a mouse boy and his mother. They were both dressed in 1800s clothing. In a way, they reminded me of the Mousekewitz family from An American Tail. The mouse boy was staring out the window as his mother sat in a chair next to him. He asked his mom where his father was. She just told him that she didn't know. He then asked if the mouse catcher caught him. She just replied with, "Hopefully not." As they left to presumably go to bed, they heard a knock on the door. The knock had the same rhythm as Funeral March of a Marionette, the Alfred Hitchcock Presents theme. The mouse boy bolted to the door, expecting it to be his father. His mother tried to stop him, but it was too late. He opened the door, revealing the same fox from earlier. The mother pulled her son back and tried to protect him. She begged the fox not to hurt them. The mouse boy, as bravely as he could, spoke to the fox. "Why do you keep killing us?" I think he said. The fox responded with something like, "There's too many mice like you. You're nothing but pests. The only role you serve in the world is to steal from others. Your daddy just stole his last thing from me, so I ended him for it. Don't worry, no one will miss him. Nobody even cares about mice. Every other animal hates you. We'd all be happier if you were all gone." Both the mouse boy and his mother were sobbing. The fox just cackled before stating that the father's bloodline must end. Without warning, he lunged forward and ripped the son away from his mother. She screamed and grabbed her son back, trying to save him. The young mouse let out genuine cries of distress as his mother and the fox had a tug-of-war with him. Eventually, the son slipped out of the fox's grip. The mother threw her son aside and did what she could to restrain the fox. It was a losing battle. She screamed at her son to run, just as the fox overpowered her. At that point, I felt the movie getting too intense, so I turned the TV off. I sat there for a minute, disturbed by what I saw. As I got up to go back to the couch, I heard a knock on the front door. The same Funeral March of a Marionette knock the fox made in the movie. I bolted back to the living room and dove under the blankets. I kept telling myself it was just a coincidence. I didn't get much sleep after that. My uncle could tell, seeing how tired I was as he drove me to school in the morning. I told him what I did when he dropped me off. He just said, "Really? Come on, you're 8. You know better." Hearing the disappointment in his voice was enough of a punishment. My mom banned me from watching all TV for 3 days when she found out. What puzzles me is that this movie apparently never existed. I searched Wikipedia and IMDb for this movie, but I found nothing. In fact, I couldn't find any movies titled The Mouse Catcher. I find it very surprising that a movie that was so well made, from what I saw, has absolutely no traces of ever existing. I even searched eBay and Amazon for any DVD or VHS copies. Everyone I've told about this just told me that I probably dreamed it, but I know I didn't. Anyway, here's what I know about this movie. It was titled The Mouse Catcher. It was animated. The animation was very fluid and detailed. It came out sometime before 2010. It was about a fox that kills mice. It is unknown who worked on the movie. It aired on an unknown channel at 1 a.m. on Pennsylvania TV. I really hope to find this movie soon. It probably won't be as scary as it seemed at the time, at least. If I do find it, I just hope it makes whatever keeps knocking on my front door in the middle of the night go away.